Hi and welcome to an episode of The Digest, and today we're really fortunate to have Dr. Donna, who's the founder of a PhDForum. Now, the PhDForum was formed on Twitter in 2012. Since that time, more than 91,000 people have connected with the supportive, knowledgeable and dynamic higher education community, which is fabulous. Now, what began as a doctoral support group in preparation for Donna's own PhD has grown into what Jack Groves at the Times Higher Education described in 2016 as one of the world's largest PhD-related groups. So a very warm welcome to you, Donna. It's great to have you aboard.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Right, so as an opener, how did this journey for the PhDForum begin? How did it expand, and what kind of support does it offer to the PhD student?
I was doing my degree, which I only started in 2005 with the Open University, and they had like a distance learning support group which was embedded within the university. And those things are a bit staid, I think. You kind of moderated and watched, and all clever people keep saying, oh, I've done all this, and the rest of us are like... a Facebook group was started up by somebody, and I joined that, and I found it really supportive because you were just there chatting, usually last minute, 24 hours to go, trying to get an essay finished, and it felt very real. And then, I won't tell you the whole story, but by chance I ended up doing a master's because I went with people from that group who were going to do a master's. I went for the day out in Chester and ended up signing up. So, and while I was doing the master's course, one of the lecturers said, you should be on Twitter. I'd never heard of Twitter or only thought of it as some celebrity thing. So I went on Twitter and thought, by then, I didn't even know a PhD thing existed, but I was being taught at master's level by people with PhDs, thinking, well, I could probably get one of them. And wanted to create a group, really. And I didn't know Twitter didn't work like Facebook at the time. So I saw hashtags like PhD hashtag and stuff. But I thought, oh no, I want a group, you see. So I thought, well, I'll start a group. And it evolved from there. And I think because I thought it would be a group, a community, as I call it now, I think that's helped it become that in a way, rather than a broadcasting feed. I think that's how I experience it anyway.
So you obviously started, what did you do? Did you follow people and they just sort of hooked onto you? Did you do much?
I don't remember now. I can remember my first tweet going, hello, and somebody going, hello, and me being really grateful. Somebody, that was from my own account. It's that long ago now. I don't remember. I would have thought, in fact, I just went through the Twitter feed the other day. I think I just started following people maybe who were to do with PhD chat or different academic, or people that I met through my social work profession, and then built on there. It's 8 years ago.
So what about the forum website? What kind of support do you offer through that channel?
I've done different things over the years, because I started the PhDForum, and then I started SOC PhD, the Social Research Hub, and I used to have a website for that. So I used to have researchers would write a blog, introduce themselves, and then I would use the PhDForum and the Social Research Hub to kind of help expand that. I'm going back several years now, and that was really great. So somebody wrote one about doing their PhD Twitter, or I can't remember what the title was, and it went for me crazy, 1,000+ shares of it, of this woman's tweet, of this woman's little blog. So that was fantastic. It was really great, but I never really knew what to do with the PhDForum. It was just, it was just there, and the Social Research was easier really, because you were sharing humanities, you were showing different people's research. The PhDForum never really had a web space that I knew what to do with. And Social Research of that, my life's been upside down for years, and I've been homeless and all sorts. So that all got left. That sort of went quiet. I don't think I even remember what the password was for the WordPress account. And then I've only recently really put together the PhDForum. I can't think, and this is, I'm a middle-aged woman, so it's all a bit new getting a website, hosting it, figuring out how to use the web template things they give you. So really, it's just at the moment a place where I can give the link for the room and just get people to the study space. But the forum, the idea is that it's not to be monetized in any way. So there won't ever be selling or advertising. People have to get by, and I don't disagree with people who do that, but I'm conscious in the time I have left on the earth to do everything I can to be giving back, basically.
Spaces, the forum or the Twitter account, do they support only PhD students or other researchers as well?
I think it supports whoever comes into the space. So there was a conversation, could have been a year or two ago, and someone saying, and I think ECR chat started, early career researcher, hashtag ECR chat. And I thought, do I need to do something different? And I thought, well, PhD is everything, really. But I follow people who are undergrads or, because I am like I am, I kind of steer away from people who are selling, I'm going to edit your thing, I'll write your PhD thesis for you, those sorts of things, because I don't want to be seen to be, one, I can't screen them, and two, I don't want to be seen to be encouraging people to get money out of people's pockets. So I suppose it's anyone who comes into the space, but because it's PhDForum, and I don't even know how I came up with the name for that, then it's people say now with the study room, can I come in? It's anyone can come in.
Okay, so the next question is slightly different. How useful is a PhD degree anymore for work opportunities?
I value education, and I think if people can be involved in education and have those research skills, and it takes quite something, doesn't it, to actually complete any course of study. It can only be good to get people into education, but because of the way our societies are all set up and because of the economics of it all, there was people talking recently about, shall I do a PhD or shall I finish it, or things are happening in my life, or shall I self-fund it? And people were like, oh no, don't ever self-fund it. And I self-funded mine. To me, it was an investment in me and an opportunity to read things that I didn't even know existed, things like philosophy and phenomenology, and never even knew what these things were or that they existed. So I think people should have those opportunities, but not be seeing them through a narrow outcome, economic driven thing, which a lot of the stuff is, isn't it? STEM, science, the hierarchy of academia. And I suppose I'm trying to use the forum to help flatten some of that, if at all possible.
So I think certainly in this neck of the woods, they look at PhDs as almost a prerequisite for some positions.
Well, for academia, it would be a prereq, right? So if you're looking for vocations,
Yeah, in the UK, you need a master's at least in some universities, because I work in a university that's a very poor university, not in high status at all. So I guess in other universities it would, but there's something about academia that also says that, if you're clever, having a PhD is a form of privilege, whether we're a first generation and we've come from nothing. You've still got access to something that other people just don't have access and opportunity and choice with. So, I would like to just encourage people who have those opportunities. And part of this is what I'm trying to model with it. It's lovely to talk about it, really. Everything I model, I want other people to think, well, I could do that. I could just find a bit of money and do that, or give a bit of time and do that. It's walking the walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to show that a PhD could just help you do other things. That's all.
When you apply for one, how much research or how many publications do you already need to be a successful applicant?
I supervise PhD students now. But let me just tell you, my view of the world is that if you're coming around and you've got a pot of money to spend at a university, you're going to find a university that's going to open the door to you. Sometimes, because universities change, don't they? They're very fragmented, I think, and they seem to shift. You've got a system one day and then a few months later they've changed it. So trying to find, you get what I got told wasn't about what PhDs you needed or whatever, was you've got to find the right supervisor. And I actually found my supervisor on Twitter. And I thought, how do you find the right supervisor when you don't know if, you didn't even know a PhD existed? This is all about who's in the system and who knows and who connects you to this supervisor or that one. If you've got money for a self-funded PhD, you will find a supervisor.
So what key advice would you give to those who are just starting off their PhD?
I would try to just demystify the whole thing, because I think there's a lot built up around it. There's a lot of pressure, isn't there? And there's a lot of competition, I think, in universities and with teams. And you've got to find your tribe, I think, people who are going to support you and look after you, and that you feel safe with saying, I haven't got a bloody clue what's going on, or I'm reading this and none of it makes sense. Be bold and don't try not to be oppressed.
When I left school, if you had a BA, that you would walk into any post. It's not the case anymore. Since I never thought that I was going to get, I would be able to get a degree. It wasn't until I was 35 that I went to university, and I went in through the back door through an access course that I did in South Trafford. And so, it's the playing field is a lot more level now than it ever has been.
It probably is because it was always built on privilege, and it was always built that some people just couldn't get in. So even now we're kind of coming in, the word cannon fodder sort of comes to mind, because we're bringing in money. So you're bringing in money from one source or another, whether the government's there. You've got a purpose, which is about funding the system rather than really changing it, I think, I don't know.
Okay, so what are the essential research literacy skills that students need to have? So, or researchers or PhD students, independent researchers?
I think confidence is a lot of it. Confidence to search for things, confidence to know that you'll be in places at times when you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know where to start. And I think that's just feeling confident of thinking, I'll just wander around the library, then I'll pick this up, or when we could be in libraries, or searching. So I think that confidence of picking something up and reading it and not feeling confident about it, breaking it down and seeking advice. I think a master's is harder. I thought the master's was harder work than the PhD. I love master's level. If I could afford it, I would do more than one master's, because I thought it was a great level of study.
Well, there you go. You just finished a second master's, actually, Andrew.
PhD, I think, is easier in a way, because the master's, when it's taught and you've got to keep producing, haven't you? You're reading and writing, and it's always on the go. Where a PhD, certainly mine, was, I had 6 months, I did nothing on it. I don't know what my supervisors thought. My life was in the boot of my car. That was it was with me. So when people say you've got to perform and you've got to do publications, there's so much pressure, isn't there, to be doing that, when it should be learning, growing, developing. That's what I think, enjoying.
Did you publish a lot while doing your PhD? Did you publish constantly?
I didn't, and I still haven't published for my PhD. I'm just writing. I had, my life went upside down. Like I said, I was homeless for a short time, and friends put me up and things, and I still finished. I had to go part-time, but I still finished within sort of 4 years. I got the PhD done with thousands of typos. I mean, more typos, I think, than anyone ever had put in their PhD in. But I only had to change a chapter title and add a paragraph. That was the only corrections, apart from all the typos. But I felt I had what I think was a poor viva. Because it felt quite negative, and it knocked my confidence, and so I kind of locked the PhD up. I ticked the embargo box when I submitted it, because I felt so bad about it. I didn't want people to read it. I thought there'll still be typos in. I didn't want people to see them, and only now, 3 years on, I've started to go back, because the stories were so important that the people told, and now I've written, because I'm a social worker. My research was in adoption for my PhD, but my life is all about child sexual abuse and exploitation, because that's part of my whole work history. So I've ended up writing about that and being involved in that, but it's developed my writing skills and confidence. So even though I got the PhD, I still wasn't, a confident person in how to put that down on paper. I could do an essay. Give me an essay. I can write you an essay. But it's different, isn't it, when you're communicating outside to a different audience and being critiqued and whatever. So I'm only just doing it now. I've set myself a deadline for the end of October. I've got nearly 7,000 words and I'm just editing it now. So
that will be your first publication based on your PhD.
That'll be the first one, yeah. And it's about, my PhD was about people. I'm interested in self and becoming. I used to say if I could, I'd be a theoretical psychologist. I don't know what that is, but somebody just thought about theory all the time because I just think it's really interesting. So it's about this. And because what happens a lot in life is we understand the world because other people gave us lenses and said this is how you need to understand the world through this prism, and just trying to sort of deconstruct that and say, there's different ways. Life's actually much more nuanced and complex, and that's really important in social work because we make so many judgments and decisions that impact on people's lives. We need to learn more humility, and give people more space to be.
You mentioned this, it's a long journey. What was it, 4.5 years? So what are the biggest problems or demotivators that a PhD student faces?
So I think just being able to sustain yourself in a house and food and your primary needs is important. Having a place to study. So what happens with the forum now is, you've got people who don't have support of their supervisors, people who just don't care, they're there and have no idea why they don't seem to see them or support them or engage with them on a personal level. So yes, I think you just need to have your primary needs met, a place to work, place to study, someone to keep filling your jug up and your confidence and to read your work and get it back in a timely manner with not red pen but stuff that should hopefully be engaging and listening to. But the other side of that, I think, is you also get PhD students who think they know it. I know my topic, and certainly people who are coming doing professional doctorates and they know their area. But equally, those individuals should push what academic boundaries are as well.
Now, you mentioned that it is a bit of a marathon. So if you start sort of waning halfway through, what's your advice to someone that thinks, I can't carry this on?
Hopefully your supervisor is somebody who will really support you through that and explain and understand where you're at and help you plan in bite-sized chunks. And if your supervisor isn't doing that, hopefully you'll have a support group or the students that you can connect with to help do that. And if you don't have that, then hopefully places like the PhDForum and other groups that you can connect with on social media will bring that. You've got to be with others. I think you can't do it on your own. I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on academic writing and publication for postgrad students?
Well, on academic writing, they have all this stuff, don't they? You've got to find your own voice and do all these things. I did a little YouTube video of 30 minutes just for my undergrads about how to write an essay, and because some of it's about demystifying all this thing people say. So I spent half an hour saying this is how to write a good introduction, and people were like, half an hour how to do that? Because other people did like a 5-minute section. Well, that was okay if you understood what they were talking about. If you didn't understand the headlines, you weren't going to be able to produce the content. So I took them through line by line of some draft work students had given me to use. And it's just that finding that gap. And for me, it's a lot of it is about, maybe that's because it's my experience, it's about having the confidence to go into them spaces and think I have something to add to that conversation.
Based on current trends, what PhD topics or fields are really hot at the moment? What advice would you give to somebody selecting a research topic?
It depends what their ambitions are, isn't it? So I would say, go with what everyone says, go with something you're really interested in, because you're going to spend the next few years studying that. But I've met people who are very ambitious, and they just, they're quite strategic in what they decide they're going to do, where they're going to do it, and what their plans are for that afterwards. artificial intelligence, these are all the key things, and cyber security, this whole thing about Bitcoin and all those economic things. But I would personally, because that's the space I'm in, want to encourage people to do things, to link with theory and philosophy, and to critically examine the world that we're in. Because I think we could be in a time in the world where things could change quite radically, quite quickly. And the more of us who are in a space to maximise equality in that disruption, the better. And I would want to encourage people, whatever area they go in, to be thinking about what education is really about. Doing a PhD can put you in a position to be authoritative on a really important subject, can't it? And then you're educating others when you get that out there.
You mentioned that you had an awful lot going on in your life, and so if you're, for example, you're looking at work, it may be kids or whatever it is, you're also doing your PhD. How do you juggle your time?
So I don't have children, which helps. And I've got to say, life's been hard. When I was doing my PhD, you know, I was working full time. I was what they call the principal investigator of one high profile projects on the CSE stuff that had gone off in Rotherham, and another one for Greater Manchester Police. And I didn't know whether any plates were falling. I was running around spinning, but I hadn't, you know, and that was a frantic, horrible place to be, very, very stressful. And like I say, my whole life sort of fell apart around it, lost my marriage and all of those things, because, you know, you can't keep everything afloat. The pressure, once that PhD's done, your life changes. I can't explain it. It's just so different. Because it's a bit like, you know, when you're doing your masters, you've got a deadline. It's like you've always got a deadline constantly for that 4 years. It kind of never, even if you're not doing anything with it, that burden of having to complete just never ever leaves you. And once it's in, it is a complete whoosh, shift. It's and so I have a much better life now. Yeah.
Great.
So you're in the thick of things. You have the forum. You constantly get messages from people asking and talking about PhD and educational issues. And you're in academia. You're working. So what do you see the future of higher education as post-COVID? Do you see trends changing?
Do you see more online work?
Yeah.
Obviously my area of interest is about how we create support networks and how we help people survive as best we can through the process of being in academia, and the potential for that with social media is great. And there's something about, I think, and again I'm hoping I'm modelling that with the forum. It took me a while to get there. Just this thing of creating a space, giving an access key, which I didn't at first. I was like thinking I've got to monitor it and I've got to be there and I've got to protect it, and then thinking, people are like, well, when's it open? And I'm thinking, how awake can I stay to be doing this? Because I didn't want to be saying, oh, you're not included because you live in Japan, and you're not included because you do this. And then I was thinking, I can't stay awake that long. And then I thought, I'll just let it be. I'll just set it up, and will it run? It runs. I change over from my laptop and my computer, and people then. The forum isn't me. They all have their own relationships, and they all different. If I'm in the space, it's slightly different, because it's like, oh, Donna's in the space, but they know each other, they're talking, they're peers, they're working together in a very different way. And I think, you know, just imagine, and there's other people who do these things, don't they, but they're a bit more focused and controlled, which is great because people need that. There's a lot now, isn't there, that's demanding attention on Twitter, and there's a lot of these which seem quite populist accounts, and they seem to have grown like massively in a year. And I don't know, mine's grown bit by bit by bit. You know, people follow me, I follow them back, and with real prominence. And I don't know whether it's Americanized, I don't know what it is, but all this sort of academic chatter and all this stuff goes on, and people because they're the ones. I get lots of DMs from people who just want to publicise things, and I think, well, just tweet it and I'll retweet it. You don't need to be. I get emails now from people, 3 emails saying, "Have you read my thing?" And I think no, because I haven't got time to be reading. Tweet me and I'll just. And I found one of the people today and just tweeted them. So there's something about how people think they need to engage with you, and I just want to help people be people, to break away all that noise and just build relationships, I guess.
From what I've seen, and when I was sort of first at university, the biggest difference is we can still bounce ideas off each other in seminars and tutorials and things like that, because we've got things like Zoom or Skype or whatever. But the social aspect, I think, is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that we're going to have to come to terms with, and all students are going to have to come to terms with. As a final,
can I just say, because the sharing of personal information, what surprised me, because I don't read everyone's chat messages when I'm not in the room, but sometimes you'll sort of, scan through. I'm nosy, I'm a social worker, it's human nature. But people share, in addition to what they're going to have for the dinner, or, you have a child stood on someone's desk or something like that. They share real personal information in these spaces with relative strangers within a relatively short amount of time, to be in a space where you feel that you can tell somebody that you had, a life-threatening illness, or this is where you're at and this is what you're managing. There's something powerful with people, isn't there, of how we overcome the barriers, I guess is what I'm saying. Sorry.
As a final note, what's the one biggest tip that you can give to someone embarking on a PhD?
Well, my normal tip is be bold. If you think you can do something, times it by 10 and go into that space. And be bold, be confident, and keep surrounded by people who you love and who love you. Because life's more important than a PhD, isn't it?
Yeah. Pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, see you.
So
enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Manchester for us.
It's been raining all day.
Lucky you.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Bye.
No, it sounds horrible. Okay. Bye, Donna. Bye.
Bye.